Welcome to Made in Science, the official podcast of the University of Stuttgart. My name is Wolfgang Koltkamp. I'm Senior Advisor on International Affairs and your host for today. In this episode, we welcome Ann-Kathrin Briem, who is Project Manager at the Department of Life Cycle Engineering at the University of Stuttgart, as well as at the Fraunhofer Institute for Building Physics. Hello, Ann-Kathrin.
Hello, Wolfgang.
On your website, I see that you have listed 3 topics of research. One of them is looking at the opportunities and risks of sustainable development. May I ask about the opportunities and risks as you define or envision them?
Yes. So specifically, we're looking, I think you're referring to a project called Leistungszentrum Mass Personalization. So we're looking at the risks and opportunities of this trend. It's a trend where personalized products are accessible, personalized services as the growing digitalization and also individualization in society is increasing. And so this trend opens up new opportunities, but it also, of course, entails risks for sustainability. For example, if we produce a lot of things just because we can, maybe this leads to overconsumption, overuse of resources that are limited. So we look into those things. And we also look into the potentials because especially with the digitalization part of this trend, we have also new opportunities to improve and optimize things for more sustainable production, for example, or for more sustainable use patterns. We can match products with users better, those kinds of things.
Is that what the term personalized production really means? I've always wondered how to understand this. As a consumer, that's just me as one person. But I think this refers to a larger unit, really.
I think personalized or personalization can mean a lot of different things. It can mean, of course, the physical personalization of a physical product. And I think that's what most people envision when they think about personalization. For example, I want my name stitched into this shoe, so I'm ordering it personalized. And yes, of course, that's also personalization. But in the project, we have a very broad view, and especially from the sustainability standpoint, we think that looking into people and what their values are, what their needs are, to fulfill the needs as best as we can in the most sustainable way that we can. And this is much more than just the production side of things.
To consider all of this, I think it needs a very broad approach sometimes. The Institute for Building Physics that you work at cooperates with many other research institutions, associations, and project partners. Does that make that work for you easier or more difficult when you have so many partners to consider?
I think the short answer is both. So, of course, it makes things a little bit more difficult because you have to communicate with more partners. In this project, we are all 4 Stuttgart Fraunhofer Institutes located in Vaihingen and 8 university institutes. And then also on the university side, we have this initiative called SPIMP. It's the Stuttgart Partnership Initiative Mass Personalization. So this is another initiative that we cooperate within. And so the whole communication and coordination part of the project is, of course, a little more complex than in smaller projects. But then on the other hand, we have a lot of people. We have so many competent people, expertise in very different topics. The topics range from biomedical products to 3D printing to our sustainability methods to user modeling. So it's very, very interesting also to meet all the people with the different backgrounds, work with them, and in this very interdisciplinary field. So I quite enjoy that.
You have mentioned that communication is important. We just heard it in your answer. How has the communication of scientific results worked for you? And how do you go about it? Do you communicate scientific results to the science communities on the one hand, and that, of course, on the other hand, there are those partners in the industry, and the results need also to be communicated to them. And there's the general public, who also would like to understand. So, once again, has the communication of scientific results become more difficult?
I think on the contrary, I think it's become a little bit easier. I think in the last years, we've also seen, let's start with the general public side maybe. I think there's been a lot of coverage in media, for example, about the climate crisis. And I think also in the beginning of the pandemic, there was a lot of scientific communication towards the public that made people understand the processes going on and the dynamics. Talking about the climate crisis, I think there's been a lot of emphasis in the media and a lot of attention in the media in the last years, and I think that's a really good trend. And of course, this impacts my work as well in sustainability assessment. But we generally, within the projects, primarily communicate with the partners. And then what comes out of projects is usually a report. And I think most reports are not very well suitable for a public audience. So what we've started doing is publishing interactive dashboards that can also be used by the public. So people that are interested in our results can go on those websites and check out the results. And we try and make them as understandable as possible. But as we know, communicating scientific results in the correct way, but also an easy way, is quite challenging.
Talking about companies and the topic of sustainability, do you see any different approaches? What's it like with companies that show a genuine interest in implementing changes when it comes to sustainability? What is their drive? How do they actually cooperate with you? And how do you cooperate with them?
This is a very interesting question because this is something that's also really fun, working with companies that are really invested and where you can feel they really honestly want to improve their sustainability, not just because they have to, because I think a lot of companies take measures because they have to and they do the bare minimum. But then we mostly work with companies that really want to do more. They approach us, sometimes we approach them, and then I think most projects have a very specific question that the companies are working on or a problem that they need help solving. And then, it's really cool to see things being put into application. And sometimes there's this moment where you realize, okay, now they get it. Now they get our viewpoint and they can apply it to their problem or their product. And I think that's what I've been experiencing for the last few years, that it's more and more companies that really want to do something. Last year we held a conference here in Stuttgart. There were a lot of companies there, and they also presented what they're doing within the companies. And I think I'm hopeful for a sustainable future, but we'll see. Still a long way to go.
Let's talk for a moment about your specific work and research. One topic that you are interested in is renewable energy, in particular renewable energy systems. Please, can you tell us something, what your focus is on?
Sure. The main area within renewable energies that we are working on right now is photovoltaic module production. So solar modules that generate electricity from sunlight. And already during my master thesis, I was working on this. I did a life cycle assessment of a specific technology, and I was working also with a company in Baden-Württemberg, the land. And that was also already then in my master thesis. It was really fun to work with a company and get real data from them and then implement life cycle assessment and see how sustainable this technology is. And I can confirm that renewable energies are indeed very sustainable compared to fossil fuels. I think this is a well-known fact, but we keep studying those technologies as well because you can still improve the sustainability with renewable energies, not only photovoltaic, but also wind energy, hydro. We have a shift in burdens. So with fossil fuels, of course, we have the climate crisis to solve and their impact on climate change. And with renewable energies, we might have some issues in the resource categories. We need resources that are not that abundant, that are limited. So we really need to also focus on maybe on the recycling technologies for these resources so we can get those materials back into the loop. And that's also what we're focusing on in a current project that really focuses on sustainable manufacturing processes, circular processes. That's what our partners are looking into. They look into how to do waste management, how to do wastewater treatment, so wastewater treatment and solid waste treatment, and how to create circular structures within this industry, because the photovoltaic industry is also very chemical, has a high resource demand, as mentioned. And yeah, so there's still room for improvement.
You're working on that improvement. In particular, your research is also about microbially produced biosurfactants when it comes to the use of renewable raw materials and alternative substrates, like insect oil. Please, could you elaborate on this?
Yes. So this is a very, very fun project for me that I love talking about because it's also very relatable, I think. So surfactants are a type of chemical that is in many products. You need surfactants for washing detergent, for cosmetics, for anything where you need to solve oil in water, basically. That's the basic science or the basic chemistry, I guess. And this project is really fun because it's a consortium between industry and academia. So we have the academic partners, the lab partners that are working in their laboratories on these processes to produce these surfactants. And microbially produced means that they use microorganisms that convert usually sugars or oils into products, and in this case, into biosurfactants. And it's really cool because you're using microbiology to create a sustainable product. And the substrates that you mentioned, so that's the sugar and oil source, can be, of course, a grapeseed oil, so a plant oil, but it can also be waste oil. So we can reuse old cooking oil, for example. Or, and this is also super interesting, insect oil that you also mentioned. And that was a really fun part because we worked with the company that is in insect breeding, and they have this. They breed insects, but they also produce oil and protein from fly larvae, which I think for Europeans is quite a strange concept that we use insect larvae, but I think if you think about Asia, where they also consume insects on a daily basis, and I think this is something that we'll see in Europe more and more because it's an alternative protein source. So we can use the protein for human diets. I think this will take a while in Europe, but what it's already being used for is for feeding animals. And then next to the protein, you also have this oil, and it's a really high value, as in like the chemical composition. It's a very useful oil because it has a similar chemical structure to tropical oils like coconut and palm oil. And I think palm oil is also on the radar for having some issues. It's not black and white, so... But yeah, so that was also really interesting because then you can use this insect oil for this technical application of producing biosurfactants that then go into products that we use daily. And so we have the academical partners working in the labs, and then we help those lab partners to improve their processes to make them more sustainable. And then we have the industry partners that are really interested in the application of these surfactants. So we have big companies within the consortium. I mean, you could look it up, but there's BASF, there's Henkel, there's Dali, all these big German chemical companies that are really interested in those products and to implement these surfactants into their product portfolio. And so this project feels really productive because everyone's taking this seriously, and also our lab partners are super collaborative. They really also want to improve from the sustainability point of view their processes, and so that's really fun. And right now we're in the second project phase, so stay tuned.
Ann-Kathrin, in your education, you completed your master's in environmental engineering and also did a specialization in sustainability and life cycle assessment. How did you select these two areas? What was your motivation for doing these?
So I already did my bachelor degree in environmental engineering here in Stuttgart, and then I started my master's degree. And what I really loved about this program is that there's so much freedom. We had so many choices in the specializations that we could take. I really liked the sustainability one. Already in my bachelor thesis, I was working on a topic related to sustainability assessment, basically. And I think that's the main reason why I chose this specialization. But then also there was this super interesting module on ecology where we went to Switzerland and did some field work. That was also really interesting. I think in the whole sustainability field, the interdisciplinarity and the broadness of the field is, I think, what I could connect with most, because my interests are also very broad.
I assume that the interdisciplinarity also played a very big role during your stay abroad as a student. You went to Waterloo University in Canada and studied at the Institute for Earth Sciences. Can you explain the term for us, please?
Earth Sciences, I think, is probably the hardest to pronounce department of the University of Waterloo for German speakers. But the department has a decade-long partnership with a department at the University of Stuttgart. So they have this ongoing exchange. And Earth Sciences is basically studying the Earth, like the planet. It's very geological. There's also a hydrology aspect. I took a class called Physical Hydrogeology. So it combines a lot of natural sciences and water-rock interaction in the ground, those kinds of topics. And I was enrolled in that department, so that was a natural science department, but then I also took classes from engineering departments. I also took language courses, so I did indeed have a very broad and interdisciplinary curriculum at the University of Waterloo.
And then you specialized. You also did your bachelor thesis abroad, and that was actually about fuel cell taxis in London. What is your experience from that research?
So I actually didn't do it abroad, my thesis, but within an EU project, our Horizon 2020 project, that looked into fuel cell vehicles. And my topic was looking at the sustainability and doing life cycle assessment of a London taxi with a fuel cell. So I did the assessment of the fuel cell and then also of the vehicle, and that was super interesting. And I think that's also what got me into the life cycle assessment field and what made me eventually stay in the department where I work at now. So I started with my bachelor thesis in the department and then became a research assistant as a student. And I left a few times to go abroad, but then I always came back, and now I've been working there for 4 years.
All of these experiences you can also use in a club called English in Motion, of which you are a member. What was your motivation for joining this club? And perhaps you can tell us a little bit about the objectives of this particular club, English in Motion.
English in Motion is a club based in Ulm, and they offer English holiday camps for youth. And when I was just back from my year abroad in Canada, I was asked by a friend of a friend to join, and I was super motivated to keep speaking English. And so I joined, and I was part of this holiday camp and then kept doing it for a lot of years every summer. And so we create this immersive environment for teenagers where they have to speak English for like every day, 24/7. For some teenagers, it's quite challenging because their parents made them go to the camp to improve their English grades. Maybe they had like a 4 in English, and their parents weren't happy with the grades, so they made them go. And you can always see those teenagers being super pouty the first few days, and then slowly realizing that it can actually be fun, and that English is not only about learning grammar and vocabulary, but also about just, speaking and daily stuff like, oh, could you hand me the butter, please? Yes, sure, here you go. And then you have those super motivated teenagers that love speaking English and are already reading books in English, and then they join camp with this enthusiasm for the language, and it's just really, fun to see. And I really like teaching youth because they have this like fresh view on things. Like most kids are really smart and curious about the world, and they like sometimes they really surprise you with their opinions. I think as adults we can also learn from kids.
Now at the university, you offer a course for master students. What are students at the university like compared to pupils from, say, English in Motion?
Well, I guess they're different because they get a grade for the course. So we have this master course on sustainability and life cycle assessment, and I supervise a project-based tutorial, I guess, a project basically, where we divide them into groups, and then the groups work on a topic that they choose, and they basically do a mini life cycle assessment. And I think what our university students learn the most is putting maybe knowledge from different areas that they have maybe from other courses or from general knowledge, and they put it together and realize the complex world of sustainability, I guess, but then also the scientific method to really quantify this, and that it's not as easy as it at first sounds maybe, because life cycle assessment is basically linear algebra, but then to calculate this, you need to know so many different things, and you have to and then also what they learn is that you can't know everything. So it's okay to look something up. You don't have to know everything from the start. Coming back to the difference between pupils and students, I think students are maybe a bit more serious than pupils, but also eager to learn, I mean.
Working with the university students, what kind of projects have they come up with, and which one has been your favorite?
The students come up with a lot of different topics. For example, one group looked at a soccer match, another group looked at a building renovation project. But I think I can't tell favorites, but a project that I think was really, really nice also in the university context was that one group worked with Stuvus on assessing the first semester party So they from Stuvus provided like lists. Oh, how much beer has how many beverages were drunk. What equipment did we use? The electrical equipment, and then the group. It was actually two groups. They looked into the technical side of the event and into like the catering side of the event, and found maybe the hot spots where Stuvus can improve events like this to be more sustainable, because Stuvus and of course the university are striving to make our campus greener, and so this project really could have an impact on our university, and where maybe measures could be taken to make our campus green.
When you mention impact, you yourself may have an impact on the scientific community when writing a doctoral thesis. Is there already a specific area that you are thinking about?
So I mean, of course, I hope to have an impact on sustainability. I mean, a small impact at least. I guess no one can save the world alone. So my PhD research is in the area of mass personalization. So maybe this like circles back to the very beginning of our talk. And I'm looking into how I can like combine a personalized approach in the life cycle assessment methodology. I'm not going to go into details now, but my main motivation is that I want to use this personalized approach to then in the end have results that are relevant to a specific person. So I would maybe calculate something for you, Wolfgang, and then present these results for you in a way that you can understand them, and then make an informed decision to hopefully a more environmentally friendly solution, but that also fulfills your needs. So I'm taking into account your needs, your values, and then calculate results that are actually true for your situation, maybe for your mobility behavior, or for your consumption of food. I don't know, it could be anything. And then you have a result, and then I present it to you and you understand it, and then you can make a decision. And then I think hopefully this can contribute to people, like to maybe behavior change, but not in a forced way, but in a way that's really sustainable.
So to all your doctoral advisors out there, we have just, found the topic. So Ann-Kathrin will analyze what I can do better from now on and in the future. I'm looking forward to that, actually. So advice on that level is always very welcome. If you look in your personal future, do you think you would like to work at the university or rather at a company?
For now, I'll stay where I am, especially to finish my PhD. And also, you mentioned our collaboration with the Fraunhofer Institute, and I think I'm now moving towards more like Fraunhofer projects and like the more application-based science. But then I think in the long run, I see myself going into like an industry company, maybe do some industry research. That could also be really interesting, in like a development department, and create something. Because as an engineer, I like to see things put into application, and maybe something I can touch, like a physical product. We'll see, I guess. I'll keep you posted.
Please do so. For you personally, what makes a sustainable society? If you say you like to contribute, if you say you would like to come up with a product, but for society as a whole. After all, the vision of our university, and you mentioned it a couple of times, is to create intelligent solutions for a sustainable society. Now, what does that mean for you?
I think I hope for more environmental awareness maybe in society. And also with the intelligent solutions, I think there's a lot of potential and possibilities that could be implemented, but then we need people to be open-minded about those solutions. I mean, starting with myself, I'm also sometimes a little bit skeptical about things. And I think in Germany we have this like data privacy mindset that is sometimes maybe a bit, it slows down the progress, but at the same time it's also really important to have data privacy. So I think we need to find a balance between those things. When talking about society, of course, we also have the social aspect of sustainability. We've talked a lot about the environmental side, but then sustainability also includes social issues. So I think that's also something we need to work on as a society.
Ann-Kathrin, as you may know, the final part of our conversation is called Moment 7. We have collected 7 questions that we would like to ask you. Please answer as shortly as possible. Moment 1. Spätzle or Maultaschen?
Vegetarian Maultaschen.
Moment 2. One thing you could change about the world.
I think I would like to create total equality.
Moment 3. Do you have a book recommendation for us?
Storms of My Grandchildren by James Hansen.
Moment 4. Which is the best advice that you have ever received?
I'm not sure who said it, but probably for me personally, the best advice was stop caring about what other people might think of you.
Moment 5. What is your favorite place on campus?
In front of Pfaffenwaldring 9, there's these like stone benches, like it's art installation, I guess. And after exams, we used to sit there and have a beer and like the sunset. It's just a really nice place to hang out.
Moment 6. If you could start all over again, you would do the following differently.
I would like to, like maybe I would have done Erasmus in a Spanish-speaking country, like on top of the Canada exchange, not instead of. But I guess I can still do that. I can still live abroad. So, yeah.
Moment 7. Please complete the following sentence. Thanks to my studies, I know that...
Things are more complicated than they might seem, but there are a lot of different solutions for problems, and people are working on solutions.
Thank you, Ann-Kathrin, for this very engaging talk, for having made us aware of looking at sustainability from various points of view, which you do in your work. We are very much looking forward to staying in touch and wish you all the very best for your work and also personally for the future.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Thanks also to our podcast team and to our audience. Thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed meeting us, you are very welcome to subscribe to our podcast. Most of all, please stay tuned for our conversations that are always based on what is made in science.